On a warm July evening in 2022, the Greenwood Park Mall in Greenwood, Indiana was enjoying a pretty standard weekend. Families grabbing dinner, teens laughing over milkshakes, and couples shopping through the various stores. Among them was 21-year-old Elijah Dicken, a young man with a quiet demeanor, out for a casual meal with his girlfriend. He had no idea when he entered the mall that day that he was about to become a nationally known hero. Eli was eating dinner in the food court with his girlfriend when at 5:57 p.m., Jonathan Douglas Spearman, a 20-year-old man with the intent to inflict as much pain as he could on as many people as he could, began firing at shoppers on the other side of the food court after emerging from a hallway leading to the bathrooms. He eventually fired a total of 24 rounds from his rifle, killing Pedro Pineda, his wife Rosa, 30-year-old Victor Gomez, and injuring another woman as well as a 12-year-old girl who was there that day. Eli reacted immediately by pushing his girlfriend to the floor, drawing his Glock 19 from under his shirt, and taking up a position of cover behind a pillar. Eli fired his first 2 shots just a few seconds after the gunman started shooting from a stabilized position atop a trash can from approximately 40 yards away. Eli was quickly forced to stop shooting as bystanders ran between him and Spearman, trying to get out of the vicinity of the active shooter. At 40 yards inside a crowded mall, this was nearly a certainty. Thankfully, Eli's sense of awareness was in a heightened state. He then had an opportunity to fire 2 more shots from that position and distance. Out of those first 4 shots, 2 bullets struck on target. By this time, the active shooter, Spearman, had taken 2 direct hits and begun to retreat back into the hallway that he had come from. Eli then moved to close the distance and get into a better position to re-engage with the now moving threat. At a distance of approximately 20 yards, he fired 4 more shots, connecting with his target all 4 times. Finally, Eli closed the distance to about 7 yards for the last 2 shots as Spearman stumbled to the ground. His evil rampage against innocent strangers was over less than 30 seconds before it had begun. The shooter was declared dead on the spot. Almost immediately after the shooting stopped, and as Eli was assessing Spearman, a mall security guard made it to the hallway where Eli and the shooter were. Eli reholstered his Glock, raised his hands, and informed the security guard that it was he who had stopped the carnage. Despite the shooting being entirely caught on video, Eli Dicken clearly being a hero in this terrible ordeal by saving numerous lives, hurting no innocent bystanders, and acting with extreme skill in a high-stress situation, the legal aftermath took a full 5 months. Our frustrations with the legal system aside, though, Eli Dicken is an incredible example of personal preparedness. He was carrying the right tools, he was aware and observant, he had the necessary skills, and he was prepared to act decisively when the time came. Just like Eli, sitting in a food court having a meal with his girlfriend that day, we don't get to pick and choose when acts of heinous evil will arise. Rather, we as men must retain a high level of preparedness at all times. We must be in the business of sharpening our physical and mental capacity to protect our people at a moment's notice. With this in mind, what gear and tools should we carry with us on a daily basis? And what kind of mental and physical skills should we be actively practicing in order to be the best men that we can be? Today, on the Hard Men Podcast, we'll answer these questions and more as we work through our Everyman's Guide to Everyday Carry. All right, guys, welcome back to the Hard Men Podcast. My name is Tate Taylor. I'm joined, as always, by my friend, Mr. Ethan Sin, Professor Ethan Sin. He's in the school garb today.
Back in the saddle.
Yeah.
Dress up on Thursdays, last school day of the week. So all the kids get dressed out, put on their blazers and ties. So we try to match them.
Nice. How was the first week?
Oh, it was great. It was great. We've got all boys this year in high school. So 7th through 12th grade is all male class. I've got 7 boys in there. It's going really good. We went to made that change. We also went to a 4-day school week this year. We have 4 full days, Monday through Thursday. So yeah, it's been really good. Boys are locked in. I think excited to be there. It's a really cool curriculum this year. I know it's not a St. Brennan's podcast, but we're here. We're reading about a lot of ancient works this year. We go through different cycles, so it's all ancient history this year. So we're reading Livy right now, and we're reading the Iliad, and we're reading Needham, early church fathers, and things like that. So it's a really exciting curriculum. A lot of stuff I've never read before, so I'm excited to read it too.
Awesome. Yeah, the boys, I just finished wrapping up. I just wrapped up lifting with the boys about 20 minutes ago, and of course, there's the handful that always want to talk about school stuff. So they were talking about Livy and some of the stuff they were reading today, and they seem like they're really excited about it too. So
yeah, it's cool reading Livy because it's basically like the Aeneid happened. That's exactly how the history happened, and he's just telling it just like Virgil tells it. So that's been cool. But yeah, first week down, and looking forward to the school year.
That's awesome. Cool. So today, we're going to be talking about some everyday carry stuff. The Everyman's Guide to Everyday Carry is the title on this one. So where do you kind of want to start with this? Because I know there's a lot of different places we can go. We can talk about gear. We can talk about training. We can talk about all kinds of different stuff. But where would you kind of want to start with this one?
I think basically mindset first. And then after we kind of go through some different mindset, like what are the principles of everyday carry? And I guess to kick off mindset, like what does it mean to be prepared? And the way I like to think about it is there's military terms, most likely course of action and most dangerous course of action. What is in your everyday, what's the most likely thing that's going to happen? I'm going to get up and have breakfast, and I'm going to take a shower and get dressed and, drive to work, and I'm likely not going to get in a car accident. I'm likely not going to shoot somebody. I'm likely, these are the things that are likely, but I bet I will, have to open a package that I order on Amazon, or I bet I will have to, unlock my door, or, things that you're like, this is likely going to happen. So it's going to help with my daily tasks. Might be Leatherman, might be, something like that. You're like, I'm likely going to use this today in my job. But you also have to think about the most dangerous thing that could happen, right? So you get assaulted or robbed or active shooter or anything else, like God forbid, what is the most dangerous thing that could happen? So I think those two principles need to inform what items go in the everyday carry. And so I think the majority of things we need to think through. As a man, masculinity means being prepared, being ready, being reliable. Mm-hmm. And so you don't want to be known as a guy that's constantly like, hey, can I borrow your knife to open this thing? Or, hey, I need a screwdriver. Like, you want to be the guy that other people know he's ready, he's prepared, he's reliable, and he's got the things on hand that he needs to be successful. It's
kind of funny that you mentioned that as an example, like, hey, can I borrow your knife? Because a lot of this stuff that we're going to talk about, I came to more in adulthood, but that was something that was like drilled into me when I was very young. It was like, you don't go anywhere without a pocket knife.
Yeah. If there's one thing on it, it's a pocket knife.
It's a pocket knife. Yeah. And it's funny because like I even know guys that are elders of mine, but grew up around them, and like, that's one of the main reasons they hate flying is that they can't have a knife. Like they're just really attached to their pocket knives, but you realize like, man, they use them for everything.
Yeah. All the time. How many times a day do you pull it out and you don't even think about it, 'cause it's always there.
Yeah.
So I guess the next kind of mindset thing would be awareness. I think when you start taking everyday carry seriously, you become more aware of your surroundings. You're thinking through different scenarios. You're not going through life on autopilot. You're not heads down on your phone all the time, but you're aware, paying attention. And I think that's really important to masculinity, is like being present, being aware. And some of these tools help to reinforce that. If you don't have a gun on you, what are you going to do if something bad happens? But if you do, and there are shady characters, you're starting to think about, if he does this, what do I do? Am I going to cross the street and go, take my family to safety? What is going to happen? What could possibly happen? I think it helps you to think more aware. And so one of the other military acronyms I got here is the OODA loop. This was something that John Boyd coined. He was like instrumental in the F-16, like well-known fighter pilot, but it stands for observe, orient, decide, act. And he used it in dogfighting. So you're constantly going through this observation, orientation, decision, and action. And the faster that you can do that, the other guy's doing the same thing, whether he knows it or not, whether he knows that's the acronym. But the faster that you can do that, observe what's going on, orient yourself, make a decision, and act on that decision, and then do it again. That's kind of the way awareness probably should work, whether that's a helpful acronym or not. That's kind of the way to think about what's going on in my surroundings. What tools do I have access to? What am I going to do if this happens? What am I going to do if that happens? And then make an action.
Yeah. This is really good. I know for sure that whenever I started carrying, one of the first things that I noticed was how heightened my awareness got. first of all, you think that everyone's staring at you because they know that you have a gun, which the likelihood is that they don't. But that's sort of the thing in the back of your head is like, everyone's paying attention to me, so you're paying attention to everyone else, trying to figure out if they're noticing things. The other part is that you just know that you're now responsible, even without having some sort of discussion or conversation about it. The weight of the responsibility that you have to act if something does go wrong is very pressing, and you feel it immediately, especially when you go out in public. And I think there's varying degrees of this, but like going out in public by yourself is one thing. You're responsible for obviously for yourself. But there are also strangers around, and they're innocent bystanders. And so you want to be responsible for them. But when you have your wife or your kids, like you have your family out, or maybe it's even further than that, and you're out with your family and some friends from church or something like that, the levels of responsibility continue to stack up. And so you become more and more aware, I think, the more levels that you add to it. And I noticed this in a really heavy way when I first started carrying. And it's something that I don't want to say it dulls, but you sort of do get used to it a little bit. But
Sure.
it doesn't necessarily fade away. Like you definitely still feel it very often.
I think the important thing to highlight there is that responsibility exists for men, husbands, fathers, always. Whether you're prepared or not, that responsibility doesn't go away. You might not recognize it. It might be something that's atrophied or something that you kind of shirk, but that responsibility exists. So you need to equip yourself to actually be able to respond to the situations that God put you in.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
The next mindset thing would be defensive. So this ties into what you just said, but backing up with scripture, when we look at the sixth commandment, like thou shalt not kill, there are positive and negative duties associated with that. So not just don't take innocent life, but there is a duty to protect innocent life. And the larger catechism is helpful. It expounds on this because it says the duties required in the sixth commandment are all careful studies, lawful endeavors to preserve the life of ourselves and others by resisting all thoughts and purposes, subduing all passions, and avoiding all occasions, temptations, and practices which tend to the unjust taking away of the life of any by just defense thereof against violence. So it's obviously our duty in God's moral law to not take innocent life, but in order to protect innocent life, which is also tied in there, we can't just say, well, I didn't kill anybody today, so I obeyed the law. There's also the side of defensive and protecting innocent life. And so in this world we live in, whatever it was, if it was a spear or a bow or a sword or what today it's handguns, right? And so we have a duty to have the best, most effective tools to make that commandment as easy as possible to obey. I think guns are the great equalizer. I think it doesn't matter whether you have a black belt in Kung Fu or whatever else. If somebody has a knife and you don't have a knife, you're at a disadvantage. If you show up at a knife fight and you've got the gun, you've got the upper hand, you've got the high ground. So I think that is just important to wherever you are, whatever the best tool that you can lawfully employ or carry, it's our duty to do that, to carry it, to have it, and to be proficient with it. And
I think that's not to undercut martial arts training or anything like that. Like
Sure.
Every skill that you could possibly have, I think is useful. But I think we tend to kind of go, well, I have a belt in whatever it is, and while that's great, a dude with a rifle doesn't care. Right. And so I think really taking stock of what's going to be the most effective thing for defense.
You don't want to be
important.
the guy. You don't want to be the guy in Indiana Jones that's like really proficient with the sword, and Indiana Jones just pulls out a gun and blasts him.
Right.
That it's not where you want to be.
Well, even like going back to our cold open, Elijah Dickin takes multiple shots from like 40 yards away. There's no martial art that you have that's in existence that you could employ from 40 yards.
You don't think you can throw like a ninja star 40 yards?
not accurately. That'd be a heck of a throw. No, I mean, seriously, he's taking like the closest shots he took were from 7 to 8 yards away.
Yeah.
But most of his hits are from outside that distance. And to your earlier point, he couldn't have just left that day and gone, well, I didn't kill anyone.
Yeah.
Well, no, like as soon as he's in that situation, there are innocent lives at risk. And he felt the responsibility that was justly his to defend that life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think whatever the worst case scenario is, like if we live in a place that has guns, and the opponent, the enemy might have a gun, then it's your duty to have that. Like wherever you are, that you want to be on the same level as the worst thing that they could possibly have, and be, at least on equal footing, if not better. Next mindset thing, these go together, but you have competency and then you have proficiency and excellence. So it's not enough to just buy it, keep it in your nightstand. It's not even enough to buy it and carry it around all the time, but there is a responsibility to train with it regularly. And this is, I guess, I don't think I have a lot of pet peeves. Maybe my wife might disagree, but this is my big thing is like, it has to be regular. I don't think you can tell everybody it has to be this often or this many bullets or this many days at the range. But like, if you can't pull the gun out and shoot a bill drill and score at least a 6, that's a problem. Like that's something to work towards, something to try to gain. And so I think it's really important to do it regularly, to strive for that competence. And this is true it's not just shooting, right? Because the odds are you'll carry your gun your whole life. All your kids and grandkids will carry guns their whole life and never need it. But this would be like medical training, all the things like that atrophy, all the things that we're not as good as we ought to be at. Like there needs to be some kind of regular rhythm in that training.
Yeah. Something we were talking about with the security team here at the church recently was scenario based, like conflict resolution.
Yeah.
Even just like working through verbal scenarios where you have someone who is combative and being able to kind of like talk someone through that, stay calm, have a commanding presence, even stuff like that is something that when you're confronted with it as someone who's never really trained that, you're like, why is this not a part of our just normal manhood training?
Yeah.
To like get used to stuff like this, but it's so foreign to everyone.
Yeah. What you're talking about is kind of like about once a quarter, we'll have somebody come in on a Sunday morning and they don't have any business being there. They're not there to worship God. They're on drugs or they're homeless or just kind of a weird scenario. And like the thing you want to do is like essentially talk them into leaving. They don't belong there. They're not there for the right reason. You got to go. Mm-hmm. But even just thinking through those soft skills of like how to interact with a person who is a little bit out of their mind with drugs or whatever else, how to talk to them. And this is where a lot of the police, the guys in the sheriff's office come in, because they do this all the time. De-escalation of the situation, right? Mm-hmm. That's the mindset is meekness is easy. Meekness we've defined other people have as having a short sword but keeping it sheathed. And that's easy to do when you have a sword and I can do something if something goes wrong, but I don't want to, right? I want this to de-escalate. And
I think the part there that's so important is that you actually have the sword and know how to use it. That portion of the meekness can't be replaced by just basically a lie of like pretending as if you have a sword, knowing that you don't. Like if you don't have the skills, you don't have the training, you don't have the tools, then you're a liar when you take a strong stance, right? Like you're being deceptive, but not in a good way. Not in a good way.
It's a false bravado. I think it's important to remember you don't rise to the occasion. A lot of like we talk about that a lot. You rise. I'm going to rise to the occasion. Like I'm going to go run a 5.5 minute mile. Like
I really needed
to. If I needed to, like if I had to do a standing backflip, if the fate of the world depended on it, I could do it.
If my family's lives were at risk, I could kill a shark with my bare hands.
Bare hands. Not that we've ever heard anybody around here say that.
No.
But I think that's super important. Is like you fall to your level of training, and so whether it's on the skills of drawing or shooting or medical or when that situation arises and tempers are high and adrenaline's pumping, like you're going to fall to your level of training. So that training needs to be really proficient. I think tied into this would be the proficiency and excellence. And this is something that I think is really important to us. But if you're the best guy in your shooting group consistently, you need to find a better group to shoot with. If you're not doing something that can be measured, whether it's like a hit score or timed or shot timer, then how do you know if you're getting better? How do you know if you're getting worse and atrophying? So I think these common drills are really, really helpful. You can look at the internet and see, oh, this is a world-class guy. You can shoot a bill drill in under, a second and a half or whatever. I think that's really helpful to be able to measure yourself against other people. Going and shooting with other guys, it's like golf, kind of, where you're like, You can go to the range by yourself and be like, oh, that was okay. But then when you go and play with people who are, really good and proficient, then it's like, oh man, this is humbling.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I do think on the training side of things, adding in things like shot timers, that's one way. Because when you just go out to the range and you're blasting Diet Shasta cans, it's not that helpful. You don't really know where you're at. But when you have a common drill, when you're timing it, when you're recording it, and you can go back and look, like I can't remember a week ago, what I did. But if you actually record it and you go look and be like, oh, this was my average that day. When I showed up the next day, this was my cold time or my cold score. Those things really help. And it kind of simulates some of that fog and friction of a real life scenario when you're thinking about the timer and things like that you can't really manufacture in other ways.
I think it's really important just to have a really clear picture of what your intentions are when you go to the range. We've talked about this before, I think, but that we don't just go out and just like, hey, we'll bring whatever you want and we'll just shoot whatever. It's more of like a really intentional, like today we're practicing concealed carry stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And so what you just mentioned about like, what is my cold time? What you'll notice is that, like, and I've noticed this with myself, you get to the range and the first few runs feel really rusty and they feel not great. You feel inefficient. You're like, well, that was the first one. In a real scenario, that's the only one you're getting. And so kind of
probably going to be worse.
Yeah, it's probably going to be worse because your adrenaline's going to be shot through the roof. You're not going to be worried about like if you're embarrassed in front of your buddies. There's like someone potentially trying to hurt you or your family or, whatever. And so bringing that intensity to all of the drills that you're doing, at least in, you can't fully recreate stuff, but at least trying to lend that same level of stress to your drills and practice, I think is huge.
Yeah, I think obviously we use a lot of the IPSC targets that have the different zones for scoring, but put up a barrier and make the target smaller. And now you have to shoot a guy who's like got some cover, or put up a bystander and do the hostage shot thing. And like, how many times do you shoot that guy? Like,
right.
And like and it really gives you a more accurate picture, like how this could go in real life.
And we talked about that with the Elijah Dickens situation where he posts up on a trash can to begin, and then he stops shooting from there because there are bystanders crisscrossing across this mall courtyard, right?
Yeah.
And there's people running everywhere, and he has to stop shooting, and no one who's running back and forth trying to get away from this active shooter is hit by him. So it just goes to show like training actually does work, and it's possible to, I think maybe his hand was somewhat guided by God that day also, but he was very well trained. He was very proficient. He knew what he was doing. And so not only did he make good shots, but he also knew when to stop shooting and like when to move.
Yeah.
And all of those things make a big difference, and you can practice all of them.
Yeah. Movement as well is a big thing that we just sometimes just stand there 10 yards away from the target and blast it. But like add in some movement, get the heart rate up, things like that kind of add some of that manufactured stress, I think are really important.
Yeah.
So next we'll jump into principles. So the first principle is it has to be practical. We don't recommend getting a Batman utility belt or strapping on your war belt every day. That's not practical. I think that you have to be able to triage what is most important, what are the things you can't live without. And then for me, I put everything else in a bag that's close at hand. So I would love to carry a lighter, and I'd love to carry, a backup gun, and like all these things. And like, it's just not practical in most people's everyday thing. I think redundancy is really key here. The 2 is 1 is none thing. So if I have a knife, or if I have, a flashlight, batteries die, whatever the thing is, but I've got another one in my bag. So I try to keep those things at least close at hand if they can't be on my person.
Yeah. I think this is something that I do pretty similar. You've got more of like a laptop sling bag. I have a backpack. I actually have one of the Vertex bags that has a gun pocket in it, which I'm a huge fan of. But it's typically those like commonly used things that are going to break all the time. If you only have one pin, like it's going to stop writing at some point, and then you can't use it anymore. The same thing goes for pocket knives. Like people break knives all the time. Stuff like that is small. It's easy to lose. And not having redundancy is basically setting yourself up to be without something that you need.
Especially when you get known as the guy who is always prepared. people want to borrow your stuff, and then I loaned away my pocket knife or my flashlight, and now I'm out of luck unless I've got a second one.
Yep.
Leatherman for me falls in this category of like I'd love to carry it on my belt every day, so it's not practical for me, and so it goes in the bag. But that's the thing that comes out of my bag more often than not.
Yeah, working on stuff, need a little screwdriver, need some pliers, need just whatever. Really useful to have a decent multi-tool on you. I think that's also a place where like I think we could probably talk about the concept of buying quality and buying a few things rather than having a whole bunch of stuff that's going to break the first time you use it.
Yeah.
But I know that I've had a decent amount of multi-tools, and you would much rather have a good one.
Yeah.
Like they just are way more useful. Ergonomics are better. It's going to last longer. And it's a huge deal. And
the good brands, like I broke a screwdriver off my Leatherman one time, like prying something open I probably shouldn't have, send it back to them, they send you another one. Like that tends to be the way it goes with some of the better brands. I'm more of a buy once, cry once kind of thing. But having something is better than having nothing.
Yeah, sure.
Next principle would be comfort. It needs to be comfortable to the max extent possible. It's not comfortable to carry all this stuff around every day. You'd much rather not. There are a lot of days where I'm like, do I really want to put my gun on today? Like but you do it. I think this is where holsters come in. They're not all created equal. There are a lot of holsters that are much more comfortable, much easier to wear. And this is important because the more comfortable, whatever it is you're carrying, the more likely you are to actually put it on every day and have it on you. If it's something that sucks to carry, you're like, why I don't want to put that on. And you talk yourself out of it. And then by the time the month ends, you're like, well, all I'm carrying is my pocket knife.
Yeah. It happens all the time. This is the same thing as like, well, I'll just rise to the occasion. Yeah, I know all of this stuff is really uncomfortable to have on me. But it's day one and I'll figure it. Like, listen, there's some amount of discomfort that's going to come with carrying this stuff for sure. I have the same thing in my head where I'm like, do I really want to carry all this crap? But then the scenario runs to my head where I don't have it and I need it and I go ahead and grab it. But it is a whole lot easier to grab if it's at least somewhat comfortable and concealable. And like you can actually carry it without it being, I don't know, without people going, are you a police officer that's not in uniform? Or like, what's going on here? You got stuff all over you,
Yeah, for sure.
One of those things.
For sure. I think on the holster thing as well, we might mention it later, but you got to buy the light before you buy the holster.
Yeah.
A lot of guys that have bought a gun immediately buy a holster and they're like, oh, I should put a light on my carry gun. And then they're like, well, now my holster is obsolete and it's just, a waste of money. So buy the light right away before you get the holster and you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. If that's something that you're sort of just getting into this, typically, especially with these Kydex holsters, the retention is going to be on the light. And so you need to get the light first, or first of all, your gun's not going to fit, like once it has a light on it, it's not going to fit in a holster that doesn't accommodate a light. But also like you need to have the specific light that you want because the retention on the holster is going to have to do with which light you actually buy.
Yeah, for sure. I think the nice thing today, there's so much gun tube out there where you can see people doing reviews and stress tests and torture tests and all that kind of stuff. So you can get a pretty good feel without having to buy 6 different ones before you find something you like. Like you can do research and there's a lot of stuff out there.
Yeah, for sure.
Next principle would be it has to be repeatable. And what I mean by that is you don't want to every day be thinking, what am I going to put in my pockets? You want to have like your main standard of things. Now, dress changes day to day. Sometimes, you go to church and you're wearing a jacket or you suit pants, like you can't put everything in it. Or you're wearing basketball shorts because we're going to go play tennis. Like, that can change. But essentially for me, if I'm taking something out off my person, I'm going to put it in my bag. Or I'm going to put it in my, golf bag or my tennis bag or something like that, where it's still there, it's still with me, and I still know what I should have and what I do have. But yeah, the repeatability thing is like it has to be something that generally works, kind of no matter what you have on. Yeah,
that's a big deal. I know for me, most days dress is pretty standard. I've got on pants or shorts, and I like buying stuff. I've noticed this about you too. I like buying stuff that is a little more geared towards like technical use. I like having plenty of pockets. I like having material that's going to be pretty breathable, sweat wicking, something that if I needed to drop everything and go on a trail or, like whatever, I get into some scenario where I'm having to change a tire or something like that, I don't constantly have, clothes on that I'm going to ruin.
Yeah.
Now everyone's situation is going to be different. Maybe you work in an office and there's a very, clear dress code and that's not going to be an option. But I would encourage people, like, if you're going to have khaki pants, make them like hunting pants or, some sort of like technical outdoor type gear. They're going to last longer. You can carry more stuff. You can conceal things better. They typically fit a little more ergonomically, where you can carry stuff more easily. And I just think having like all of those reinforced seams, bigger belt loops, all that kind of stuff is something that is really important when it comes to repeatability and being comfortable on a daily basis.
Yeah, absolutely. Next principle that we'll talk about is preparation. So this ties into competency and proficiency and things like that. But this is more like the everyday, like your gun hopefully lives at home in some kind of locked up thing, right? I've got this little metal combination lock safe, that sits at my front door where I put my keys down. Something like that is really helpful because it's not really protecting against fire. It's not really protecting against somebody who breaks in your house and like they can jimmy it open in like 10 seconds. But what it does is it lets you keep a loaded gun out of the hands of the kids in your house. So you don't have to be like spinning the combination on the gun safe every time. It's like right there, and it makes it a lot easier as you're going in and out to take it off and put it in, or take it out and put it on. But every day, something's different. You want to make sure you're doing press checks, or making sure, hey, I went to the range. Did I clean it? Did I put one back in the chamber? All that kind of stuff. I think it's super important to prepare your family for this as well. And so teaching gun safety at a very early age to your children. What do they do if they ever find a gun? They touch it, they pick it up, they bring it to you, or they leave it and they go tell you, Dad, I found a gun. As early as the kids can talk, like I'm talking to them about this kind of thing. And I'll test them from time to time and put like an empty gun somewhere and see if they follow the rules. So yeah, there's that. There's training. There's we have all these fancy guns with lights and red dots and things like that. Are the batteries still good? Do you have a calendar reminder once a year to change your batteries? I know guys that do it on their birthday every year. It's just change every battery in their guns they own. Or when you pick it up, flick the light on, flick it off. Is the battery still good? Is the red dot still there? Things like that. We carry different ammo than we shoot at the range, right? We're carrying defensive type rounds. And so every so often, probably ought to be shooting those. And it shouldn't be like 10-year-old ammunition like in your mag. What else? The carry mags versus training mags. I know a lot of guys are very specific over this is a range mag and this is a carry mag, and that they're not the same thing. Like if I'm going to go to the range and do a bunch of 1R1s and reloads and things like that, then I'm not dropping my carry mags on the ground. I'm not that diligent about that, but I get the reason why. Yeah,
if you have the ability to do that, if you have the finances to be able to pull something like that off, I think it's a great idea as well.
Last thing on preparation would be fitness. There's no way you can expect to perform well if you're not usually being stressed and in decent shape. It's something that you can be doing every day and working into your routine, but it's something that you just can't ignore, can't excuse, think that you're going to be able to run down the guy that stole your wife's purse if you don't run.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even just the simple fact of like, if your heart rate hasn't been over 100 beats a minute in 3 months, the chances that you're going to respond well in a stressful situation are just really small. We've talked about this before, but like even with the boys lifting, you can tell that they're smart. They come in there and they're talking about stuff that I've never read before and I don't know. It's not that they're not intelligent. They're very smart. But when their heart rate gets to about 140, suddenly they can't count to 10 anymore. And it's just because they haven't practiced. They're not used to having to do that. And so the more you can practice stuff like that, just being able to think in a stressful situation, even if you have to manufacture the stress, I think is really important. So I think fitness is huge for this for sure.
Last principle I have here is kind of the cultural and location specific considerations. So I used to work for the Air Force and go on base every day, and you know for the most part you can't just take loaded guns through the base checkpoint every day, and so everybody's environment's a little bit different, but you kind of have to modify what you want to carry and make it the best possible based on where you're living or where you're working. There's people in Canada and people in Great Britain that have different laws and can't even buy a gun or can't carry a gun, or you live in New York or California and you have to buy some kind of weird 10 round thing with like a chamber indication and things like that. But as I left the Air Force and lived in different places, you're carrying more often because you're not, on base for 10 or 12 hours a day. And so when you start doing this, if you're not in the habit of carrying a gun, I think there's initially, like what you're describing, that anxiety of like, I'm printing, everybody can see my gun, and it's just weird. And that's can be a good thing to like help with that awareness side of things. But I think what you come to realize is that people are not paying that much attention. You're paying more attention than anybody else, especially if you're thinking that way. And the only guys who are, if you're concealing it properly, the only guys who have any idea are the ones who are also carrying, and probably the good guys, right? So I think that with time that you become more comfortable with that. The other thing we have here is a culture where it's pretty normal to carry a gun. It's in fact like it would be more weird if you showed up every day and like, dude, where's your gun?
Yeah. If I came a full week and like didn't have my pistol on me, you'd be like, what are you doing?
What's wrong with you? So I think the culture where it's normal really opens up building that culture where it's expected. Everybody understands the reason why, the responsibility with it, the training aspect. It just makes it such a nicer thing. And then you worry less, do I have to have this concealed? Can I carry it outside the waistband? A more comfortable way to carry, in my opinion. And so I think that those things have to factor into the everyday carry, and you can't get too specific because everyone's in a different situation. But it's just things to think through. What's the best way that I can do this?
This is a principle that has come up a lot recently for us doing completely different episodes of this podcast. Like we talk about dopamine and we talk about the social aspect. We talked about everyday carry, and now we're talking about the social aspect again. But it does enter into everything that you're doing. If all of your buddies are guys that carry guns, the chances that you're going to carry one is way higher than if all of your buddies are like, wait, what? You're doing what? And so the more you can, I think, build a group around you or find a group that's already built and then join it that is cognizant and taking these things seriously, the better prepared you're going to be as an individual. The social aspect of this is huge. Like all of the guys here at Refuge, I say generally all of them, like it's almost everyone on a Sunday morning has a gun on, to the point where we have to talk about like, hey, all of us can't stand up and start shooting someone at the same time if something ever goes down. Like we need to have a plan in place. Yeah,
we have a security team, let them handle it kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah. I think this is true. And one of the things I've noticed is people move here, like from California, for example. And one of the first things that they do in the first couple months they're here is they come find me and say, hey, Ethan, I need a carry gun. What should I get? Glock 19. And so, it's kind of a contagious cultural thing. So when you have these things and they have momentum, nobody is saying it to the new person moving here from California, like, what's wrong with you? Are you even a man?
No.
But it's just one of those things that's more caught than taught, but it's definitely helpful to be in that environment.
Yeah. If you have a group of buddies or at least acquaintances and periodically you get invited to go shoot, well, the chances that you're going to own a firearm and be more prepared to use it go up astronomically, because that's just what your people do. And so I've seen that same thing happen more than once, where someone gets invited to go to a shoot and they're like, well, I don't have a gun. And of course, someone, mainly the guy to my left with the suit jacket on, he'll be like, well, I have multiple that you could just try out if you want one. And so they come and they shoot a few different things and they're like, I kind of like this. And then they end up, saving up some money or going ahead and going and purchasing something. So the social reinforcement is huge.
Even on that note, having it, like being able to try it before you buy it is super nice. Like guns aren't cheap. None of the stuff is cheap, but being able to try it out and to take it to the range and compare It's really nice to be able to take 3 different guns, say I'm going to try a micro and a mid-size and a full-size, and this one's comped, and this one has a, full-size magazine, full-size grip on it, like all these different things, red dot, iron sights, like try it out. I want a striker. I want a double action, single action. I want a single action only. Like try it out and try it before you buy it. It's a great way to do that.
And you don't have to have buddies to do this. A lot of gun stores will have ranges in the back. You can go test stuff out. I would encourage people have some confidence about stuff like this. I know it can be pretty daunting to walk into like a gun store for the first time and ask questions, but genuinely, most of the time you'll find that guys who are into this kind of thing are actually really, really happy to talk about it. Go try some stuff out. See if you can shoot something. See if you can ask some questions and then figure out what's actually going to work for you. That would be way better than being super nervous and then buying something that you end up not wanting to carry.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's pause there and then jump into like what belongs in Everyman's everyday carry. So we talked about mindset, we talked about principles. So now let's get down to the actual stuff. So this isn't meant to be an end all be all list. The things we have here are what work for us in our environment, things we've tried out, things we've called out and things we've added, but not meant to be the absolute standard. But I do think it's at least a good place to start or get you thinking about some of those things. I think that one of the things is it always depends. The acronym, the military acronym is MET-TC, mission, enemy, terrain, troops, time, civil considerations. That doesn't work perfectly for our situation, but what it means is it depends, right? What is the environment? What is the most likely course of action? What's the most dangerous course of action? Who could the threat be? Who do I have to protect? Who are the civilian considerations? All that kind of stuff. And I think those things help you think through, this is what belongs in my everyday carry. First thing I got on the list is wallet. So I carry a money clip for the most part because it's not as bulky as I don't like sitting on stuff. Mm-hmm. I don't put anything in my back pockets. But I've got cards, I've got IDs, business cards, and cash. You've kind of got a small wallet. It's almost like a money clip.
It's similar to a money clip. This is a bifold. Pretty cool little wallet. My grandmother actually got me this for my birthday. It's got a few card slots and then an actual clip for carrying cash in the center of it. I really like it. I like leather, so I just like having stuff like this. I like watching it patina and like develop some character and things. But yeah, you did mention cash, and I think that this has kind of gotten to be like a weird thing for you to have cash on you.
Certainly for like millennials, Zoomers, like no cash ever.
Yeah. What's your opinion on that?
I think men ought to carry cash on them. We're not completely in a cashless society yet. The CBDC hasn't taken effect yet. But until that happens, I think men ought to have what seems like a lot of cash. Like I would say $300, $400, $500, and it's not to use. Like not primarily to use. I know guys in the church that like will only pay in cash or silver, or something like that.
Yeah.
But that's not where I'm at. But it's more of like, this is emergency. This is I'm broken down and the card's not working for some reason because I'm in a different state and they canceled my card and I have no cell service. Like you can buy gas or, I pay my barber in cash and things like that. But for the most part, I'm not really using it a lot, but it gives me like peace of mind to have a decent amount of cash on me. That way, if you ever needed it, you can go somewhere.
Yeah, we don't have to go way far down this rabbit hole, but I think it's important to just every now and then consider the fact that so many of the things that we depend on a daily basis could just be shut off. Your phone could just die. Your card could just not work. And then now you have no access to your money. And so I think having at least some sort of reserve where you can get home or, take care of yourself for at least a few hours is super important because so many of the things that we depend on are digitally based. And I'm not saying you should, hate technology or anything. Like I use all the stuff too, but you do have to realize that like it could just turn off
Yeah, for
It could
any
just be
reason, no
shut
reason.
down.
Yeah, like the other day we had a fire up here a few minutes from the church, and they shut down all of the electric on like these grids around here so that they wouldn't like make the fire worse. Wasn't fire that knocked it out, but they just shut them down, and nobody has air conditioning, and nobody has internet, and just all these things that you take for granted. And it's like, yeah, fires happen in a lot of places all the time. That's just one example of like a natural disaster, but. Tangential to this, but I just remembered when I travel, especially when I'm like across the country, I'll carry like an ounce or two of gold with me. It's like 35 an ounce or something right now. But just thinking through that thing is like, I'm out of my house. If I needed to get home, would $3 or $6 grand help me, whether I have to rent a car or buy a plane ticket? Now, it's not as spendable. You can't just go to the airport and say, here's my ounce of gold. I'd like a ticket, please.
Yeah.
But it's better than nothing. Right. And it's so small and it's worth, a bunch of money. Anyway, it's just something I've been doing lately on those longer trips when you're far from home.
Yeah, it's a great idea, actually.
Next thing on the list is watch. So my opinion, men ought to wear a watch.
You should know what time it is
You should
without having to pull your phone out.
Yeah, 100%. Like I think there's lots. Like I don't really care what it is. We both tend to wear analog watch. We also you got your smartwatch on there as well.
I've got a Suunto that I bought mainly for tracking workouts and running and GPS stuff. Without having to carry my phone with me, which is useful, but also the battery's going to last 3 or 4 days. And that's if I'm not using a bunch of the features.
Right.
So once again, like it could just die. Like it's got a battery in here, and if it dies, it dies. Whereas something like you have an automatic from Seiko and it runs on momentum. So as long as you're wearing it, it's going to keep working, at least for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I think I do the same thing. I wear a smartwatch when I'm sleeping and track that. I track workouts, and it's really helpful data, I think. But 9 times out of 10, like when I'm during the day, I'm wearing like an analog watch. On the smartwatch thing, one of our friends just got a Garmin. I think it was $300 or $400, but it's a solar one, and he was showing me like battery life on it is like 2 months.
Really impressive. I think that if you're looking at a potential smartwatch, those are the best ones on the market right now.
Because otherwise, it's like every 3 or 4 days, it's on the charger.
Yeah, you got to leave it on the charger.
They charge fast, but like, it's just another thing.
What happens is like you go, well, all I have to do is let it charge for an hour and a half or whatever it is. But that's always going to come. Like it's going to ring you and go 10% battery left right before you leave the house for 2 days, or, like you go to some business trip across the country or something. Like, yeah, it's better if you have one that will have a longer battery life, or you need to be really aware of what the battery life is on it so that you can keep it charged up. I think on this point, like even with optics or flashlights or anything else that we're going to talk about, not letting batteries dip too low. This is kind of one of those standard preparedness principles. You shouldn't have less than a quarter of tank of gas in your vehicle ever.
I try to go half. I try to get me and my wife. If it dips below half, you top it back off.
Yeah.
We don't always do that, but that's kind of like what we try to do.
I think the general principle, if you can kind of like get into the system of like things should just generally be, above 50%, like top stuff off before you need to. That's a good practice to get into.
Your beer fridge should not dip below 50% before you fill it back
like
up.
what if your buddy shows up?
What if I show up tonight and you don't have any beer?
Exactly.
Another feature on the smartwatches that I just enabled was you can put your card. You can do this like Apple Pay and things on your phone, but I've had a couple of scenarios where like I accidentally leave my wallet at the house and I'm out and I want gas, or I want to buy my kids an iced tea because they did a good job, and I'm like, oh, I don't have my wallet. But you have that just like redundancy of I was in the mindset of like, this stuff shouldn't be anywhere, and like kind of like all your stuff being stolen, and but I kind of have resigned myself to like the FBI has everything they want anyway. It's just something that it's more convenient for me to have the redundancy than it is for me to try to be off the grid.
I just don't know. Like if you have electricity in your life at all, like probably most of your stuff is accessible to bad people if they really want it.
Have you seen the thing where they can take a Wi-Fi router and map your house?
Yes. through the signals that and like how fast they're bouncing back.
Yeah.
They can 3D image an entire room with a Wi-Fi router.
With like people too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And like they can do it in real time.
Yeah.
Like they could 3D map a room as people are moving with a Wi-Fi router using AI. It's bizarre. And like we think that someone couldn't get access to our online bank account or something. It's like, yeah, they probably can. So I'm not saying just like completely give up all, defensive thought, but
honestly, we should do a whole episode on that and just being a harder target when it comes to that kind of stuff. But networks, VPNs, and
I remember last fall you were discussing whether or not we could Faraday the entire church.
I was.
Yeah.
What was that?
Could we create like a Faraday screen that would encapsulate the entire basement?
Yeah.
I was like, that would be.
We need it.
That would be that would be pretty cool. But yeah, I think that's worth talking about.
Yep.
Let us know if you think that's something that you would be interested in us digging a little deeper into some of this harder target stuff, especially when it comes to digital, I guess, safety.
Yeah. Yeah. Next thing on the list is folding knife. So this is something I carry in my left pocket every day. It's an old Benchmade. I use it for all my cutting tasks. So whether I'm like opening packages or Eric locks me out of my office and I have to jimmy the door or, so I like them not serrated. They're much easier to sharpen, but like, I don't really mind like using this for like any kind of normal cutting task. Like that's my go-to thing. And it comes out all the time.
I am a bit of a knife nut. I don't have a crazy budget for it, but I really like knives. This is a petrified fish, which is not an expensive knife, but it's D2. It's a D2 blade. It's a flipper. That's what I typically have on me. It's a bigger blade, easy to sharpen, pretty tough. And then on Sundays, I will typically carry something that's a little bit nicer. This is a Kaiser that my dad got for me last Christmas, and it's a little sleeker, a little more low profile, but still a really good knife and useful. Doesn't take up as much room in like slacks pocket, that kind of thing.
It is different when you're wearing like slacks. Like the knife doesn't sit as good as it does in jeans.
Yeah.
So we have the pocket knife. Next thing would be flashlight. So you've got a flashlight here. I've got one, and I think a lot of the maybe pushback when carrying a flashlight would be like, I have an iPhone. It has a light on it. I don't if I need it. But I think this is the same thing when it's like 2 is 1, 1 is none. When the phone's dead and I really need a light because I'm trying to change the tires, something like that. It's important to have a second one. These can be a lot brighter. I try to find one that's like really small and fits in the pocket well. Like that, as same principle of like comfortability is like there's a lot of brighter, better flashlights out there, but something that I'm not going to remember I even have in my pocket is means I'm going to have it with me.
Yeah, there's some new designs out there. I think it might be Olight that makes this light, but I know a couple of the guys here at the church have. It's more of a pocket knife shape, but it's just a light. I've looked at those.
Like this is Stiletto.
Yeah.
Or the Streamlight has one.
Yep.
Surefire has one, but it's kind of like a wedge almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think those probably fit in the pocket a little bit better. This is an Olight. I actually got this at a White Elephant Christmas. And I think like half the flashlights that I own have come from White Elephant Christmas things. Because like if I see a light, I'm always picking it. If I see a knife, I'm always picking it. So that's what that is. Super easy to carry.
The clips on these are super nice. So you have the belt clip, but then you've also got the hat clip. So if you need to use it as a headlamp, Streamlight does these. I think Surefire does those too.
Yeah, I know that Olight has it on a lot of their knives or on a lot of their lights. I really like this one because I usually have a ball cap, if not on my head, then at least with me, and I can throw it on my hat if I needed to and use it like a headlamp. The other thing that's cool about this one, this is an i5R from Olight. The battery is rechargeable with USB-C, which I'm a huge fan of. Like if it goes dead, I don't have to try to go find new batteries. I could plug it into my computer on a camping trip and recharge my light. So I like having rechargeable stuff.
They've gotten pretty with a lot of the lights. Streamlight, I think, does this pretty well, but a lot of the pocket lights, they will have even external ports for USB-C, and that makes it really nice to be able to top off your battery. Some of them are dual fuel too, so they can do like the CR123s or like one of the 1750s or whatever the double one's called, or they're rechargeable on the battery. So I think those features are really nice. I mean, a light like this would be much better. Oh, it's brighter, it's got different settings, but I'm just not carrying that in my pocket. It's just too big.
It's too cumbersome to have on you constantly.
So yeah, flashlights, 2 is 1, 1 is none. Fixed blade. What are your thoughts on carrying a fixed blade for the everyday carry?
I've done this at different points in time. At a different job where I wasn't in an office every day, I actually did carry a fixed blade pretty often. I don't so much now because I just don't have as much use for it. I can definitely see like the sort of like combat readiness side of having one as well. But the one that I currently own, or the several that I currently own, aren't really low profile enough to carry on a daily basis without being annoying.
Yeah.
I like the idea of it, but I don't currently carry one.
It hasn't been that long, but I got this one recently, and the things like, just like what you said, opposite, but the thinness of it, I carry my gun at 4 or 5 o'clock outside the waistband. I carry this at like 5:36, and the thinness of it, the clip on it, I forget I think I wrote down the actual clip, but the clip fits on the belt really nicely, and you just kind of forget it's there. But my thought process with this is it's a defensive knife. It's like the backup when the gun goes down, all your mags are empty, and like that's all you got. So I'm not pulling this out ever. Like
you're not cutting boxes with it.
Not cutting boxes with it. Like it needs to stay sharp. But I do like the idea of having a fixed blade on you. But to each his own there.
Yeah.
The other thing on a fixed blade, I do this. I wear cowboy boots like
most of the time.
Most of the time, right? It's either cowboy boots or golf shoes. But I have this one. This is a sock PE dagger, but it fits so nice in the cowboy boot that you don't even know it's there. So probably excessive to have two fixed blades, but like it's one of those things where I don't even notice that it's there. So like why not have it?
When you get home at the end of the day, does all of this stuff have like a very specific place where it goes?
I have like a little leather catch-all. So the gun goes in the little handgun safe, and everything else goes in the catch-all. So it's right there by the door. When I'm heading out the door, grab my bag, grab my keys, put all this stuff, in my pockets or on my belt. And so it's always right there. That's what I found is like, I don't have to remember, like, do I have my knife? Do I have my gun? Like, it's all sitting right there.
Yeah. You take it off, you put it down. Before you leave again, you pick it all back up.
All right, so the one everyone's been waiting for, handgun. I think, situation dependent, a handgun is one of the most important things that you can put on your everyday carry. I think it's something where if you can legally, physically, it's something that everybody has a duty to have. So I guess let's start with like size and caliber consideration. So you've got a Canic there. It's kind of a mid-size gun, right?
Yeah.
Kind of a slimline mid-size gun.
Yep. So
I think you've got options when it comes to full size, mid-size, micro. This one's mid-size as well. This is a 229. This is the one I carry every day. I like the idea of 9mm. I like 45. I'm just not going to carry a 45 every day. I think I'd rather have more capacity than most of the 45s are much lower capacity, or you end up having a really heavy gun if you go that direction. One that guys like a lot, or I've seen really popular, would be like a micro pistol. So you have like a slimline Glock that's like a single stack or 1.5 stack. When I first started carrying, I was carrying this all the time because of the size. It was easy to carry. It was easy to put on whatever I was doing. It didn't bother me. But I was, more in the waistband then. The thing I found though is like most people don't shoot these very well. Yeah. They tend to be really poppy. You got a really small barrel on them. And so, I think a lot of guys will buy these for their wife. I did. I bought my wife a 43 for her first carry gun. Eventually she's like, I really need a Glock 19. Like shoot it a lot better. So I think it's good in certain situations, but for the most part, I would point people more toward a mid-size for an everyday carry gun.
I agree. had a 365, a SIG 365 for some time, and sold it recently because I just don't shoot it well. And like, I would love to get to the point where I'd like my skills are proficient enough with anything that I pick up, but currently that's just not the case. So I would rather have something that I feel comfortable shooting. And so I'm sort of I'm trying to find that line between shoot well and comfortable and going to be, comfortable carrying it every day. And this is kind of where I've landed. I really like this gun. It's a Canik, it's a Mete MC9L. And, I really enjoy it. This is I want to say it's a Muddy River, pancake holster. I usually am similar, like about 4 o'clock carry. And, I'm here most days. So everyone is just like open carrying guns and it's normal.
You're not worried about trying to conceal it.
Right. Obviously, if you're in a different situation, you're going to have to take into consideration more of that concealment stuff. But
I want to ask more about in the waistband. I guess we can do that when we get to holsters, but everybody's pretty much carrying 9s around here. I don't know anybody that carries anything else. What else? Red dots. So a lot of that would be the other thing is like, you don't have to put a red dot on your gun, but if you're going to buy one that's already cut for it. So you have the option to do it later and you're not buying a new slide or sending it off to get milled. Like, I don't really care whether people do red dots or not, but I do like the ability, the modularity of being able to do it if you choose.
Yep. My full size handgun does have a red dot on it. This one, I really like the iron sights on it, and I'm decently proficient with the iron sights that are there. And so it is milled. If I decided to put an optic on it at some point, I could. I just haven't yet, and I enjoy it the way it is. So just depends on the gun. But I think it definitely good advice to pick something that you can upscale if needed.
Yeah, because so many of them now just come that way. So just those would be the two things. Would be like, get one with a rail on it, get one with a optics cut, and add the stuff when you want to. I held out for a long time on red dots. I thought it was like one more thing, the batteries die on, but I found two things, especially at any kind of range like this, the cold open you read, the odds of you being accurate at that range increase tremendously when you put a red dot on there. We do that drill from time to time. We try to do 10 rounds in 15 seconds at 40 yards on a steel target. And it's far easier to be accurate when you have the red dot on there at any kind of distance than you do without it. So that would be my pitch for it. I also like the way it trains you to shoot. When you're on irons, a lot of times your eyes are kind of focused on the front post, and you're kind of like in between. My eyes focus on the target, or are they focus on the gun, and you're kind of back and forth. But with a red dot, it's much easier to train your eyes to see through the dot and to focus on the target. So you can kind of hard to describe, but when you get it, your eyes are not focused on the gun, but they're focused far, but you can still see the red dot out of your peripheral vision. And I think that's the way to go. I've seen guys shoot occluded. Were you there for that shoot where the guy had? Yeah. Anyway,
he's got a cover.
You just put a piece of tape over it. But basically, if you ever do that, your eyes can still see the red dot, and you can still see the target. And so it kind of trains. It's one way to train you to focus far and not here on the gun. So I guess I'm a fan of that. Batteries, other considerations, but carry ammunition is another big one here where. I'm carrying, defensive ammunition in my gun, 16+1. I also carry a, backup mag, and I'll put just regular ball ammo in that. And the reason is like, if I ever have to shoot and I'm not planning on like going to the range shooting, I don't want to shoot my good ammo. And so usually it's pulling this mag out and loading it. And at the end of the day, if you have to go to this mag and you've shot all 16 rounds, it's still going to be okay.
Yeah.
Pistol lights. What are your thoughts on that?
I think if you're going to carry a pistol around, then it should have a light on it.
That's where I'm at, is like, if my gun has a place, if any gun I own has a place for light, it's going to have a light. I think it's tremendously helpful in target identification. I think in a lot of the scenarios you can come up with, it's dark, you're in a basement, whatever, you're going to wish you can always not turn it on. Like, it's always, I think it's one of those things you'd rather have and not need it than need it and not have it.
Yeah. The proficiency that you're going to have, even if it's not completely dark, but it's just dim, and you're in a stressful situation, you would rather be able to light up whatever it is that you're looking at. And you're just going to be a lot more proficient if you have a light on the pistol rather than trying to grab your pocket light and like shine it with one hand while you're holding your pistol with the other. It's just way better. And they're not crazy expensive. Like, it's something that you can get into pretty easily.
They're really not. Honestly, until this year, Streamlight made the best, and I still have Streamlights on all my guns, but they made the best like compact light for the gun. They're like 500 lumens. They have like pretty good ergonomics. They sit on there well. Batteries last a long time. CR123s. I think this year Surefire actually copied the design so that your holster would be compatible if you put the Surefire on there. But I like these TLR7s. They A, X, HL, all those. But I think that for your money, what are they, like $130 or something like that?
Yeah, you can find Olights that are cheaper than that. They have little magnetized rechargers,
yeah,
that are USB on one side and the little magnet circle on the other that attaches to the light. You don't even have to take it off your gun to recharge it. I mean, they're pretty slick, and they're even cheaper. So,
yeah. So I think a lot of people probably listening already have handguns or carry, but I think looking for a place to start, Glock 19 would be a good mid-sized place to start. Double stack 9, optics cut, TLR 7. Shadow Systems makes really good Glock clones. Anything you would ever want to do to a Glock, they've already done it before, before you buy it. They make the MR 920 as their version. FN 509, Echelon. One of our guys carries an Echelon and really likes it. Dagger, the PSA Dagger would be another Glock clone, cheaper option. Anything like that, I think, is a great place to start. So,
yeah. It's Turkish made, but that Canik is not expensive either. It's a double.
Canik didn't make my list.
I know. Well, it's probably because it's made in Turkey, but which I understand. But it's a double stack 9. I actually like these pistols because of the triggers. I think they have really crisp triggers on them. And for a similar or even better price point than something like a Glock 19, I like the ergonomics. And I really enjoy the triggers on them. So
yeah, and that would be my biggest gripe with the Glock is I think the trigger sucks.
Yeah.
So holsters. So we both have outside the waistband holsters. This is so important because of the comfort, right? There's other aspects like retention and how quick can you get it out and things like that. But like ultimately, I think when you're buying a holster, you're buying comfort. This is a T-Rex Ironside. It's outside the waistband. And I've been carrying this for a couple of years. I like it a lot. I have several of these, but don't know why it's so comfortable, but it really snugs to your body. You can get some outside the waistband that you feel like they're like hanging out really far. But that's what I found is in terms of holsters that really work well and they're comfortable to carry.
Yeah. I have pretty much the same setup, outside the waistband. I also will carry this from time to time, appendix, which works just fine as well. And honestly, it's a little more concealable that way. It's just not as comfortable. And so if I'm in a situation, which I normally am, where it's not a huge deal for me to print or even just open carry, then it's a whole lot more comfortable to just go ahead and go that direction.
So next thing after the holster would be the belt. I think the belt is almost as important as the holster. When you get a nice leather belt, whenever you hang something on it, you kind of get that sag in it over time. But what I found, Magpul makes these, lots of people make carry belts, but Magpul, I have a couple of these where they kind of have a reinforcement on the inside. So it's a leather belt on the outside, but the inside is reinforced. So the nice thing about that is you don't get any of that sag from carrying, a heavy gun all the time. I think that makes a big difference with that. I know when you're in the waistband, they make a lot of those like kind of ratchet systems where you can kind of push a button and you sit down, give yourself a little bit more space, or stand up and click it back in. I'm sure if you're carrying in the waistband, something like that would be really helpful.
Yeah, I think I had one a couple years ago. I think it was made by Core, but the ratchet system is sweet if you want to go that direction. They're stiffer And so if you're sitting down, they can warp. I've found this out. It'll warp right in the middle of my lower back. And then you start feeling that warp in the belt because it's so stiff. I think something like that Magpul belt is a good like middle of the road option because it's reinforced, but it also is not a piece of plastic.
Yeah.
Right. Like it actually still forms to your body pretty well and holds its shape without warping in a bad way or, being too flimsy.
Yeah. So holster, belt, do you carry a spare magazine?
I usually don't. I will on Sunday mornings when I have a jacket on.
Yeah. Just because it's another thing to carry. I don't think it's required. I like to do it when I can. I'm wearing a jacket most days. And so it doesn't really take up a lot of space, but I've also found that finding a good place like one of these to put your mag in, goes a long way as well. These, they're called discrete carry concepts and monoblock. And that's the same one that's on that knife, but however they did it, they're very low profile. They cinch on the belt really well. They hold well. They don't slide around. And I think that something like that, if you're going to carry an extra mag, really makes it a lot more comfortable.
My appendix carry holster has kind of the sidecar thing going on where I can carry an extra mag with it. I actually really like doing it that way. If you're going to carry appendix, it's really not that much more of an issue to carry an extra mag with you.
Here's something else, probably not in everybody's everyday carry, but it's a coin. We used to call them RMO, or it's a round metal object. And so when I was in the military, I never really cared about these. There was only ever one that I had that actually meant something to me. That people give them away all the time. But here we have this one is a guild coin. So basically what it signifies around here is that you've graduated the guild, and so I carry this. It's a ball mark when we're playing golf, and I don't have a ball mark. But like traditionally, it's identification with your tribe. It's kind of a rite of passage. It's something where you're like, no, he's one of the guildsmen. He's one of the guys who graduated. It means something. So kind of that proof of membership, identity, kind of thing. So when you have a society or a culture that's like you're proud to be a part of, like you want to identify with that. So just something to, I guess, think about in terms of history and legacy and culture and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. Even if it's not something that you have on you all the time, it's cool to invest in things like that, especially if they're earned like that one is. Yeah. I'm also just a fan of like something that's really dense and heavy like that is just like it carries some sort of imprint and meaning. I'm a fan. I think that's probably why I like pocket knives so much.
Yeah. I'm carrying a phone every day. Pretty much everybody is. No really way to get around that, really, unfortunately. Car keys on the everyday carry. I don't like having car keys in my pocket. I don't like having a lot of stuff in my pocket. So whenever I get somewhere, I'll set them down or like put them in my waist bag or something like that. I hate carrying keys. But yeah, sunglasses.
I'm honestly just not a huge sunglass fan. Like I just don't find any very often that I enjoy wearing.
Yeah.
I either think they look stupid or they're just uncomfortable. And so like that's talking about me personally.
Yeah. Do you think sunglasses are a psyop?
I think they could be.
Yeah.
Because it's super interesting. If you stop eating seed oils and stop wearing sunglasses, you don't sunburn near as easily. And one of the things that they actually do is block UV rays, which your body is using to trigger all of these like hormone systems, this is not a dopamine podcast, but I like sunglasses are something I'm not a huge fan of unless we're like at the range and I'm wearing them for like eye protection.
Yeah.
I usually don't have sunglasses on.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else on your list?
Not really.
Covered pretty much everything.
I mean, bottle opener or something if you got it on your keys. My belt is similar. I don't have Takova's boots, but I do have a Takova's belt. It's just a genuine leather belt. I'm a big fan of custom belt buckles. I have a few of these. This is from the New Christendom Games this year, the first ever one that we did. So I wear that now. I've had other ones from races that I've run that I've worn. I just think they're cool. It's similar to the challenge coin thing, but without having to like think about it. Yeah, it's just with you.
The cool thing about this one, there is no sag. Like you carry a gun on this all the time, and like there's no sag. So must be a good belt.
Pretty good leather belt.
Plug for Takovas.
Yeah, one more on top of all the boot recommendations.
The last thing I'll mention then is kind of like we said earlier, this seems like a lot of stuff, but it's really not that much. And I wish I did more. It's just not feasible. So I have my briefcase. I carry that, back and forth every day. This is where stuff for me, like a medical IFAC comes in, being able to stop bleeding on some kind of serious injury, lighter, cutter, things if around here, you never know when someone's going to show up with their cigars and, you're going to need a lighter or cutter. Backup flashlight, backup knife, Leatherman, AirPods, tourniquet, pens. My big wallet I keep in there because you can't keep all your cards in a money clip and other things like that. Laptop, my notebook, hard drive, iPad, things like that, like go in there where I use them a lot. These are not things that are going to be on my person.
Yeah. Even things like, I don't know how many times I've used these, but I usually have a small, like rubber banded little group of zip ties. The stuff like that comes in handy all the time. If you can find a creative way to like keep electrical tape on you, like in your bag, stuff like that comes in handy constantly. But especially just like the lighter, just like a bunch of this other stuff, it's not something you think about until you need it.
Yeah. You've seen guys, it's kind of like a prepper thing, but like take a Bic and then wrap some rolls of like duct tape around that or electrical tape, or like it's not a ton, but like it's better than nothing.
Extra rubber bands, just little things like that, fasteners that you can hold stuff together with if it breaks, is really, really useful. I was my barber. I was sitting getting my haircut the other day, and one of the other guys that was in the shop asked if anyone had a lighter, and he had one. And everyone's like, he said, everyone always asked me like if I smoke. And he was like, no, I've never smoked. I just have had to try to start a fire without a lighter and it sucks. So I always have one on me.
Never going to do that again. Yeah. That's how the con boys are with their headlamps.
Oh man.
I think it was Eric. He might have told the story, but like needed a headlamp and didn't have one. And now it's his like religion of, you will always have a headlamp on. It would be in the middle of the day, and Martin and Walter will be out there with headlamps around their neck. They're like,
yeah.
My dad will not catch me without a headlamp.
Yeah. If they are not at home, if we're in any sort of like camping or outdoor scenario, those boys have headlamps around their necks all the time.
Yeah. It's good. It's a good way to learn lessons from other people's mistakes that you don't have to learn the hard way.
Yeah. And then you get to learn it in more positive reinforcing ways where it's like someone needs a headlamp and you've got one.
Hey, really glad I had that. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, hopefully that was helpful. That's the way that Tate and I think about everyday carry, some of the items that we try to include. Yeah, let us know, what we're missing, what kind of things, like recommendations in terms of brands or calibers or sizes or holsters or all those things, like, are just really helpful because like we can't buy everything and try everything out. We found the stuff that works or works good enough, but it's really helpful to know what else is out there and what we're missing. So yeah, if you have recommendations on the list or any specific items, like let us know, drop them in the comments.
If you're a Christian dude that makes any of this gear and you want to sponsor Hardman Podcast, let us know. Yeah. I mean, we would love to sponsor and, promote stuff to guys that they're going to actually use on a regular basis that are made by Christians. A lot of the time you're buying stuff from people that you kind of feel weird about giving your money to. We would much rather build kind of that alternate parallel economy and have Christians making some of this stuff and doing a good job with it.
Yeah, like Trigicon, anybody is like, working for Trigicon, wants to sponsor the Hardman Podcast. They put Bible verses on their optics. Just let us know. We'd be happy to cut them a deal.
For sure. Speaking of additional stuff, the Brutal American show for this one is going to be a pocket dump for the entire basement. So we went through and had everybody dump their pockets. We looked at everyone's EDC, and it was fun to film that and kind of see what everyone had. Yeah,
I think you guys will find that really helpful. A lot of good stuff there. A lot of things maybe you wouldn't think about would belong in your everyday carry, but definitely check out Ben. Ben Garrett has a very unique everyday carry. So I think that'd be really helpful.
Yeah, definitely. All right, guys. Well, hope you enjoyed the show. Thanks for hanging out. As always, stay frosty, fight the good fight, act like men.